This is a live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.
Good Monday evening. The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and as always, thank you for joining us on this great Monday evening. So glad to be back on our channel. We spent most of the month on the Upload Network channel, but we had a lot of work to do, and we wanted to make sure we got out to just about everybody that we could, especially with the draft content and everything. So nice to be back in our little place. So really excited to be just doing it on a just more intimate level on all our platforms here. So really excited just to see everyone just kind of have a very chill show. Because let's just be honest, the off season, it's a long haul, and we're just trying to just have a good time, just get everybody comfy and get us through these next few months right up until we get to training camp. So still, we got a lot to talk about, a lot going on. And of course, joining me as always, and to talk about this with me, good friend Lee from the 615 podcast. Lee, good seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've been on our own channel.
That it has.
As you said, we spent a good part of the last month over on the network channel, so it's good to be back.
It's good to be back, but I mean, it was a productive month. I mean, we definitely put in our work, so getting back to everybody else on the channel, so it's just nice to be home.
We paid our dues.
It's somewhat of our homecoming show, so it's definitely good to be back in our own spot. So, but we definitely plan on being back on the network again as the season starts ramping up, and if we get a few more guests in, we'll just kind of kick around some ideas. So no worries. But Lee, definitely a lot going on this weekend. Rookie minicamp started up, and then a lot of conversation going on, especially with Will Levis. So, I mean, you and I talked about this before the start of the show, but just to let the audience know, you know, what you thought of Will Levis as, you know, he started progressing through the motions.
Well, yeah, of course, we saw the videos that came out from Titans minicamp. Will Levis, as much as everybody's hated on him, I'm starting to get on board with Will Levis as the future quarterback of this team.
I mean, we still got a long ways to go, but I mean, you know, the hype's fine. I like the fact that he came out, had a good first session, but, you know, it's a marathon. It's not a race. So we'll see what Will Levis does when we get we get the old cats out there. We'll see what he does with a more better defense that's going to put some pressure on him. So the growing pains are there, but, you know, some good things to see in the first outing. So we'll see if it's a progression. We'll see what happens going forward. But, of course, got to get to the chat. Good seeing everybody in there. Lou Man, of course, giving out his predictions for what he thinks are the best games this offseason. So shout out to you, Lou. Great seeing you as always. And, of course, our buddy Titans Fox in there. Good seeing you too, buddy. And, of course, Mr. Jones joining us, tighten up as well, sir. So great seeing everybody in the chat. And I know more are going to pile in. So we won't waste everybody's time. We got a lot to talk about, Lee. So let's get into it. Getting into it, I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. Let's jump into our top news, getting started. And to go ahead and start it out, it is official. The Washington Commanders are now under the management of Magic Johnson and, of course, Toby Harris, owner of the 76ers. So he's got his work cut out for him now that the Sixers have been bounced from the NBA playoffs, so he can start getting officiated with the team as well. So, Lee, good move for the Washington Commanders. And what do you think this means for the future moving forward for them?
I think it's a great move for the Commanders because you have two guys that are definitely one of the two is the biggest figure in sports in general in Magic Johnson. And you have, in my mind, I'm not going to say one of the best owners in the NBA, but he's top 15.
And I think that's fair. I mean, Harris isn't afraid to go after players. He's shown that he wants to be winning at a high level. Unfortunately, for the 76ers, it just hasn't panned out, at least in the last decade. But of course, you look at Magic Johnson. He's definitely been involved in a lot of just big discussions, bringing in a lot of big name players, especially being affiliated with his time with the Lakers and with the LA Dodgers. So a lot of big things in the works that could be moving forward for the Commanders. So what's a few things you see in the future for this team?
I'm definitely going to say you have to look at building. You have to look at that coaching staff. As an owner, you have your hand in them, your hand in that. If Ron Rivera, I'm going to say this: is Ron Rivera's seat hot? No, but it's not cold either. You're looking at a lukewarm seat right now for Ron Rivera. I'm going to say this: if things don't pan out this year, I think Ron Rivera is out the door.
And I mean, with the new ownership group, that's very likely. I mean, you would definitely think that they want to bring in potentially their own GM, their own choice for head coach. But, they're both smart businessmen. They don't interfere with a lot of things like Daniel Snyder would. To me, Daniel Snyder was like that teenage kid that like kept a list of players he liked on his bedroom wall. And then when he finally had a chance to own a team, that's who he went after. These two understand the world of business. And, I definitely see a lot of things, especially a new stadium negotiation, being a lot more just on firmer ground going forward. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, it's definitely on firmer ground. You have two, as you said, two really good businessmen right here. And I think a new stadium should be definitely in the works. Coming in with a new ownership group.
And I'll take it a step further. Would you take that new stadium into the Virginia area where your taxes are going to be a little lower? Or would you potentially be looking to move back to the DMV?
I would have to say, I'm pretty sure they're already looking in Virginia. By what I've been hearing, I think they are. I think they're looking in Virginia, and if they are, that's a great move.
I don't know. I think, and this is just me because coming from a perspective that had a parent that, had a lot of ties to that organization, their most successful years was in DC. And I feel like, if the land where RFK is right now would be available, I mean, that's prime location to build a new stadium at.
Well, the question is, would you bulldoze the current stadium, build right there, and play somewhere else for 2 to 3 years? And
Well,
where?
the thing is, you don't have to leave FedEx Field. I mean, their lease isn't over until 2027, if I'm correct. So you still have a place right now till you can get your current stadium up. And I mean, if you're going to market, why not market in the nation's capital? I mean, of course, you're going to have teams that are going to continue the trend to try and move away from the city that they're located in, but they play at least maybe 30 miles away. The Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers. I mean,
the Chicago Bears are looking to move into, I think it's Arlington Heights.
Exactly. So my whole point is that's prime real estate, that's prime location. I'm sure the city would definitely mortgage that back. And if you're trying to get traction for a fan base that's just been defeated for the last 2 decades, that's kind of a good move in the right direction. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. It would not be a bad idea. And, as you said, be able to gain traction with a fan base that has been in, I'm going to use a different word, in torment for the last 2 to 3 decades.
And to finish off the whole point, and I will ask this because I think this is something that is going to get spread around. So let's just go ahead and ask it and get it out of the way. Do you see another name change on the horizon, or do you think they're going to be the Commanders?
That's a very good question. So they've only been the Commanders for what, 2 seasons now?
This will be the second season, officially. So they spent $20 million on just a rebrand alone. So you take that into consideration, but the fans don't like the name. They're not fond of it. And I mean, realistically, you had more people that were in favor of football team than they are the Commanders.
And I don't think a name change is right where you need to go right now, because you just, as you said, you just went through a name change like 2 years ago, and a rebrand is extremely expensive, and that is something you cannot do right now with a new ownership group.
And I mean, it's a tough call, and it really is. I mean, Fox says he hopes for another name change. It might kill some jersey sales, but everyone hates name, and they do. And I mean, that is part of it. And, Al Pierce brings in a good point. I'm not going to say the name just because, that's just not my thing, but, you
don't want to get canceled.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. So just out of reference and just, got to watch my backside. So no worries. It's an old name. I'm not going to say it. But
so if they were to do a rebrand, and of course, everybody in the comments can chime in on this. What do you think the name could change to?
I mean, I think the name was right there with Red Wolves. I mean, you can get upset with a patent and everything that the Arkansas State team had and owned, but there's ways around that. I mean, there's plenty of teams that have used other name brands and logos, especially from other teams. It's just a way of just paying for it and just getting around it. I mean, I don't know what the situation is with the 12th man, with Texas A&M and the Seattle Seahawks.
I can actually tell you that exactly.
And I'm sure that's exactly what you're going to do. So go right ahead.
Seattle has to pay Texas A&M $120,000 a year just to use the 12th man.
See, I figured it was something like that. And I mean,
I've looked into it. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I mean, to me, the Red Wolves name was right there. There's no dog or wolf affiliated teams in the league, and it would have been different. And there was a lot of cool things they could have done. I just feel like they missed on it. That's just my take.
I'm going to throw a name out there that was definitely in the running, and that was the Senators.
Don't we have enough Senators, though?
I don't know.
I'm just saying. It just feels like let's not give, a lot of more politicians the rights to like sports teams. Okay. I'm over it at that point.
Wow.
I mean, Washington already has the Nationals. They have the Capitals. I mean, they have the Wizards, but I mean, I understand that's not anything that would be affiliated with anything politically. It's too obvious.
Red Tails.
I did like the Red Tails name. I felt that was a great homage to the Tuskegee Airmen. So I did like that one.
Tyne Fox brought up a very good one. Imagine the cost of renaming the Vikings to the Minnesota Northmen. It would cost way more than changing from the football team to the Commanders because of the lack of longevity.
Well, to me, the whole thing was, if they wanted to do something different and go in a completely different way, listen to your fan base. I know they weren't going to get the specific name in place. That wasn't going to happen. You had to go in a different direction. But most fans already knew what they wanted. And they just went a completely different way.
I think Dan Snyder just threw something out there because he knew that he was fixing to have to sell.
Pretty much. But at the same time, it's like, Snyder already was just showing that he didn't care. So it is what it is.
I'm going to have to give Mr. Jones a big no with Red Rum.
Funny, though.
Because if you look at Red Rum backwards, it spells murder.
Yeah, Mr. Jones knew what he was doing.
Washington Tomahawks.
And I mean, honestly, I don't think they're going to do anything that was,
Native
Native American
American.
affiliated. They didn't want to go that route. It just they wanted to go off a completely different road, which is fine. But I mean, regardless, whatever the name change is, stadium relocation, I do feel that the Commanders are in good hands. They're in the hands of two businessmen. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to push to build this franchise and hope revive this brand into something to what it used to be in the later years. So whatever happens, I'm kind of excited to see what happens here. So good luck to them. Moving into our next bit of news, because we got a lot more to talk about. Speaking of ownership, Tom Brady seems to be dipping his toes in the pool, especially with the Davis family, as it appears he'd like to get a little piece of ownership owning the Raiders, potentially having not a lot of say so, but just it's really more of a show kind of ownership kind of deal. But Lee, I mean, realistically, I would think it would be hilarious for Tom Brady actually being a partial owner of the Raiders. I mean, especially since we can say that that's what happened in that cold game in Foxborough back in 2001.
Yeah, that would be a fun thing to see. Counting the head coach as his old offensive coordinator.
And I mean, like I said, I see this move. It's a PR move.
It truly is. Having a big name like Tom Brady on board with your ownership, even just owning 10, 15, 20% of it would be a huge PR move.
But I mean, still, I would even find it funnier that Tom Brady's basically going to be over, the head coach Josh McDaniels over there. That's even funnier. So there's a lot of great narratives there with this story. The biggest question is, I don't think it's going to be a problem with him getting the money together. It's just, is it going to come down to him just wanting to be involved? Is he going to get a little bit more say so? It's a lot. It's a lot to take in there.
The reason I think like this and it's funny is that he would be over Josh. He would basically be in charge of Josh McDaniels to an extent. The guy who was his offense coordinator at Foxborough.
Which, I mean, technically he was kind of already over him in terms of just ranking anyway. So,
but now Josh McDaniels truly would have to listen to Tom Brady.
Agreed. So it's a kind of just a Freaky Friday situation. It's funny to me. I think it's going to happen more than likely because it's great PR for the Raiders. The Raiders are all about PR anyway. If there's anything a Daniels family likes, or I'm sorry, the Davis family likes, it's PR. They can't get enough of it. So shout out to Ryan Harris, by the way. Good seeing you, Ryan. Make sure you check out the 615 podcast if you get the chance to. So always good stuff on this end. I'm sorry, the Jump Pass. We got too many podcasts. So Ryan Harris of the Jump Pass podcast. My bad.
Blue Man said something funny. Tom Brady and the Raiders sounds like a pop rock band.
I mean, it kind of does.
And then the great Reverend, he can just tuck that one away.
Oh, you're killing it, Al. You're killing it. I love it.
Bon Jovi and Tom Brady.
I don't know if the Raiders are going to get to the Super Bowl anytime soon, Lou, man. That's a stretch. I'm not sure about that one. I do think the band name's pretty good, but I mean, realistically, I do think
Tom Brady and the Raiders. That's good.
That is good. I definitely see that as a good PR move, though.
But so yeah,
eventually this will happen. It's going to come to fruition. As I said, Davis family loves press. This moves press.
Look at it. Look at Al Davis. And speaking of Al Davis, I want to throw this out there. If any of y'all have Disney Plus, there's a show on there called Al Davis versus the NFL.
Great show, by the way.
It truly is. It's Al Davis and Pete Rozelle.
Which that's a great piece that you're talking about on 30 for 30, and I agree. I mean, the whole thing, it's basically set up like you have two of them basically telling their side of the story, especially just with their tenure together. As
And
Al
it's-
Davis, where a lot of people didn't know, was the original commissioner of the AFL.
Yeah, him and he had a part in it with Bud Adams.
But to me, I also kind of feel this is kind of the Raiders sticking it once again to the NFL because that's what the Raiders do. But regardless, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But another interesting piece of news that I found on Bleacher Report, and this could have came to fruition, the Minnesota Vikings were very, very serious about potentially moving up to pick one to potentially take Bryce Young. So I really felt that was going to be quite the costly move. So, Lee, what do you think it would have cost for the Vikings? I think right at then about maybe 15, 16 to move all the way up to one.
I thought Minnesota was down in the 20s.
You might be right.
Because I think they made the playoffs this year. Yeah, they did because they lost the Giants in the first round.
Yeah,
so I think they were 21, 22.
That sounds about right. So, I mean,
and for them to move up to one, let's go back to when Jared Goff was drafted number 1 by the Rams.
Okay.
They had to give up 3 firsts and a third. To get to pick number 1.
But then they also have to give a second the previous year.
I think so.
I know they had to give up another first for the next year. So I can't remember if it was a second also or a third.
But to think about this, for Minnesota, I feel like it would have been at least three years of at least first, including their one this year. A second this year, and maybe a second next year.
I mean, you're definitely going to have to give up a first. You would have given up your first that year and a first next year.
And even the first year after that.
Yeah, I would have to say just to equal out on the chart that we've mentioned, especially on previous shows before. You know, you're looking at potentially 3 first-round picks and maybe potentially, a second and a third in whatever years you wanted to mix with that. So I would have to say a first and a second, and you're looking at maybe a first and a third.
And then even maybe one more first.
But I got to admit,
that would have been very, very, very intriguing.
Very much so. I mean, the Vikings have the pieces in place. I just feel like Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback, but I think that's all you're going to get out of him. He's a good quarterback. He's not going to elevate a team.
And I'm going to quote, if you go watch wrestling, it's MJF. Kirk Cousins is mid. He's nothing more and he's nothing less. He's middle of the pack. Can you win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins? You can get close, but you won't make it. And you know the saying, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
And I mean, Mr. Jones' comment had me rolling for a second. Bryce Young, the first week in that lineup, he is small. And he does make Kyler Murray look bigger. So, I mean, if he can play, he can play. I'm not worried about his size so much anymore. That's what I've seen through the film that he can do. He's got a pretty decent offensive line if they continue to build around him. The Panthers will have success. But if I look at the potential at what he has, especially if Minnesota pulls the trigger on that move, that's an intriguing team to me. Minnesota becomes a dark horse in a playoff race next year.
Al and Mr. Jones are pulling the punches. Mr. Jones said when Kirk Cousins kisses his wife, he is technically kissing Cousins.
Ugh, that's rough. And I mean, this might be a new trend. I mean, it really might be a new trend. I'm looking at small ball. You got smaller quarterbacks that are coming into the league. Bryce Young carried Alabama by himself, and that's no small task.
And speaking of small, I feel like that's where Tennessee's going. Tajay Spears is 5'10".
Right.
You draft a wide receiver that's 5'10", 5'11".
Right. And that's a good point. I mean,
you signed two more that are under 6 foot or less. And Gavin Holmes from Baylor and Kierce Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming a small ball league. I mean, look at Kansas City. You got a lot of burner players. You got guys that are quick on their feet and are just easy to miss when they get moving. So I can see Rand Carthon getting in that mindset. They're going to try and keep at least a few big players, on tight end, on the wide receiver core if they can. But eventually, I think they're really going to start pushing for smaller guys at the receiver position as well, because they're just elusive. They're hard to tackle. So, especially the guys they brought in as undrafted free agents. Yeah, they're easy to lose in traffic. So, it would have been intriguing to me. I think that's a move that definitely would have made the Vikings, a lot more intriguing. Yeah, competitive and
Bryce Young with Justin Jefferson and Irv Smith Jr.
Yeah, I like that. That's entertainment. That's good TV. Bryce Young and Double J. Sign me up.
I would have paid to watch it. I would have hopped on a plane week 1 to Minnesota.
But I mean, whatever happens regarding with the Panthers, they've made their choice. Bryce Young is their quarterback. And at the moment right now, they're just getting him ready and preparing him for the biggest step in his career. And another great point by Lou Man. The NFC South is key to success their season. So it'll be interesting, to say the least. Hitting on our big piece of news also, it seems that Coach Ryan is definitely making sure that he shores up his defense for this upcoming season. So a great pickup. Shaquille Griffin picked up on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal to play for the Texans. So, Lee, I got to admit, that was a pretty good move for the Houston Texans on a 1-year deal.
100%. If you go back to his college tape, he was a nightmare in that secondary at UCF. And you saw what he did in Jacksonville. This kid has a high motor. And I feel like DeMeco Ryan just got a gem for that secondary.
So in your mind, do you feel it's just one of those prove-it deals? It's not a big gamble. But I do think this could set him up for maybe another 3 or 4 year deal extension down the road.
100% this is a prove-it deal. This is what you want to see from a team like Houston who's trying to build up to be competitive. You like seeing them take a risk on guys and say basically, hey, here's a year. Prove it. Prove to me that you still have stuff in the tank.
And like I said, I think this is a great fit for Ryan's defense. He's looking for guys that are quick on their feet, smart athletes,
And
and
he is.
Griffin's that. He's exactly that. So,
He's that in a box of Cracker Jacks.
well, he definitely pulled a price out of that box of Cracker Jacks. Love the deal here. I think it's solid for the Texans. Ryan's
It truly
definitely
is.
building a culture in Houston. So they're starting to become a team that's definitely going to start getting people looking the other way. So I wouldn't overlook them.
Look at what Houston looked like when he was there as a player.
Yeah.
They would come through the line and they would wring your neck.
Yeah, they played a smash mouth type of defense, and that's basically what they're building. So
yeah,
I think for year one, Ryan wants to just get out there and start hitting people in the mouth, and
showing
the addition of Griffin,
hey, Houston's back, so don't sleep on us.
Yeah, the addition of Griffin basically sells that narrative. So Houston becoming a little more interesting as the regular season starts to loom.
And of course, I did talk a little smack in the video earlier that dropped.
You did, and we'll definitely get to your video a little later in the show because great video, and we want to make sure everybody catches that as well. But of course, Lee, with the schedule drop and us being a Monday night show, we're all about them. So, little early preview of the first Monday Night Football game of the week, September 11th on 8:15 on ESPN. Great matchup right here. Aaron Rodgers with the Jets and Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills in Aaron Rodgers' debut. So we'll start out with this. We know that the Jets are making moves and getting Aaron Rodgers comfortable. It's basically, he's getting the band back together just in a different shade of green.
That's true. Aaron Rodgers, I think this may be the last ride for him. He's pushing 40, if not 40 right now. And I think this is it for Aaron. He's done everything you can. He's won 4 MVP awards, but they have a team around him. You've got Elijah Moore. No, Elijah Moore's in Chicago. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Wilson right there. Garrett Wilson at wide receiver. You got Breece Hall coming back. You've got a veteran quarterback in Aaron Rodgers.
And I mean, it's a all-in kind of move. The Jets are once again pulling an all-in kind of move.
I feel like Robert Saleh has proven, hey, we can be competitive, but we don't want to just be competitive. We want to win division titles here.
And I mean, I think they can. I mean, they built up a pretty decent team. They've got the defense. The biggest question is, can they unseat the Buffalo Bills? That's the biggest question everybody's going to watch. And they have the defense, and they almost broke in through the playoffs last year. So you have to think with Aaron Rodgers, that could be a difference maker.
And you'll get to, because basically the way I look at it is whoever wins this game week 1 possibly wins your division.
So can we take that as Lee's bold take of the season?
100%. I'm gonna pick this game right here. Give me Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
And that's definitely bold of you. Lee is already going with the Jets. Will we call this an upset?
You could, because Josh Allen, in my mind, Josh Allen is right there on the cusp of being a potential MVP guy.
And my take is, I'm going to wait. There's a long way before September, and a lot can happen. So I'm just breaking down the game and I'm previewing it. But Lee was bold enough to give us a pick, so I will put it right here and make sure everybody knows. Lee Hill has said upset on Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers will start his career with the New York Jets with a victory over the very, very favorite Buffalo Bills, potentially a Super Bowl favorite. So, see, we're already in our rhythm. So we're getting some pretty good takes right now out of Lee. He's already throwing out guesses for games upcoming 6 months before we even got them out. So we are meaning business at this one. Saying, don't be that way, Big Mike. At the season started today, who would you pick just for fun? I mean, Fox, that's just how I work. I'm one of those guys. I just don't want to pick something where I'm not very sure about anything yet. So even for fun, it's still like, I don't want receipts. I don't want receipts on me. Because somebody's going to come back 6 months and like, remember when Mike said this or when Lee said that? I gotta protect myself out there. It's a dangerous world out there on the internet. But I'll tell you what's not dangerous. You run into the bathroom for a quick break. We're going to take a quick 30-second break, and when we come back, we are going to give our best pick of the 5 teams the Titans will face in 2023. We'll give you our picks, and we will make sure you know what the best matchups are and what all the hype will be about. So go get your snack and use the bathroom. I'm Michael Bishop at the Power Hour. We'll be back in 30.
The Power Hour with your hosts Michael Bishop and Lee Hillis.
I'ma keep winning. You can try to save yourself.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening show. And of course, with me, my host, Lee of the 615 Podcast, and of course, big thanks to all of you all tonight. We love it when you come on the show and get creative with us and get into these discussions. We absolutely love it. So, as always, big round of applause for you guys. So without your support, believe me, this show would not go. And because you do that, it's because we know you care. So jumping back into our comments real quick, Fox saying, of course, you know that about me. You just wanted to see how I'd respond. You know, okay, you're just kidding. You're just trying to rile my feathers, Fox. But I love you, though. I mean, it happens. I mean, honestly, Fox, sometimes I think my screen freezes, especially if we have a lot of high traffic going in. So sometimes I'll think I'll be stuck in dirt face. So believe me, I know I get that a lot. It's like, I want to know Henry bar. Do they still make O. Henry bars?
Hang on.
Do they? I haven't seen an O. Henry bar in like forever. Man, we were going like throwback candy bars. I mean, at least he didn't say a Clark bar. That definitely would have been showing some age right there.
You can find them on Amazon.
I can believe that.
But you can find anything on Amazon nowadays. You get 24 of them. You get 24 of them for $47.
47. Damn, I don't want one that bad.
But that's 96 cents an ounce.
48. How many for 48 again? Like, my mind's already blown.
24 for 47.
Okay, that's what I thought. Oh my Lord. No. Hell no. $47 for no. You know, I mean, honestly, I don't remember them that much anyway. I mean, maybe it was kind of like maybe a Baby Ruth candy bar or something like that. Shout out to P Shark on Let's Be Real podcast, by the way. He got a show, so make sure you check him out on all his platforms. Hell no, I'm not paying $47 for no bar. The marathon bar was the best. I mean, if we're getting into candy bar discussions, and I could always just pick out my favorite candy bar, but I mean, for me, I definitely think one of the GOAT candy bars, the Midnight Milky Way. Don't sleep on that. The Midnight Milky Way to me is one of the most underrated candy bars.
Yes.
And I agree. I love caramello bars.
But my go-to candy in general, it's between three. White chocolate Snickers.
Okay.
White chocolate Reese's.
Okay. We definitely got Reese's. Mr. Jones is a fan there.
And they actually have a new Kit Kat. I don't know if you've had it. It is the birthday cake Kit Kat.
I've had the birthday one. I've had the strawberry and the blueberry. The blueberry's good.
I have not found the strawberry or blueberry.
The blueberry, I know you can get it on some of those websites that do like, I know at TikTok you've got like a couple sites that do it, like they'll do candies from like different lands. Fox, I promise you, I am not a fan of coconut. It's not the flavor, it's the texture. I do not like the texture of coconut.
I don't mind mounds, but you have to have the almond in there.
The almond's fine. It's the coconut for me. I don't like the gritty.
Cookies and
I
cream.
don't like
Cookies and cream Hershey's is actually really good too.
All right, Milky Way salted with caramel. That's actually a pretty good one. Now they came out with a cookie dough one that was actually pretty good that I had to try. And I got to give Lou Man whatchamacallit for sure. Whatchamacallits are really slept on.
Yes. And of course, here's Al Pierce calling me a nut.
Well, sometimes you're a nut, sometimes you aren't. So it is what it is, Al. But I'll tell you what's not nuts. These 5 games that we picked for you that we think are the best out of the 2023 season. So let's jump into it on our evening debate. And as we all know, the season schedule dropped this last Thursday. And of course, we had a lot of games and a lot of people had their thoughts and takes on it. So, Lee, of course, let's go ahead and start with the most obvious. Let's start with our fifth best game out of the bunch. And of course, we'll go with the Monday Night Football matchup with the Miami Dolphins. And I think this one, I don't know what's going to be with Tua Tagovailoa, the whole situation with him. It's going to be one of the biggest. I think it's going to be one of the stories that gets followed closely with if he can play through the whole season without any type of major injury. But this Miami defense is no joke.
Oh, no. You're getting a team who has in my mind, I'm just going to say this. You're getting a team right here in Miami that has, in my mind, a top 10 defense.
The secondary might be the best secondary in the NFL.
Okay, like you have a mix of who is it? Xavier Howard,
Jalen Ramsey,
Byron Jones.
I mean, that is a scary secondary. That is a secondary that'll cause a lot of teams trouble. And it's not that I'm sleeping on the offense. I mean, you got Tyreek Hill on there. You got Jalen Waddle. It's just all going to depend on if Tua Tagovailoa can make it through the season without getting beaten down and just stay consistent. And for the early part of the season, he did. I just think if he can progress,
if he can
take Mike McDaniel's, that next step in the Mike McDaniel's offense, Miami's going to get into the postseason.
And I'm going to throw another guy out there that you could have at number 5. You could also have the Tampa Bay game.
I mean, I think Baker Mayfield, in an offense, with the weapons that he has.
Mike Evans.
But I think the bigger takeaway here is, would Bruce Arians have a little bit of involvement to actually help progress him along? If you do that, then I think that makes his situation a little more interesting.
Mr. Mr. Jones, that was a good one.
Quite a bit too. So that was solid. And I mean, I think the Titans and the Saints game, it's going to be a good matchup. I think Derek Carr, he either plays really well or he doesn't against the Titans. It's always a coin flip. I do think, however, with Miami, depending on Tennessee's situation, they could potentially still be in the playoff hunt. I think Tennessee is still roughly a 7-9 win team with the current roster they have.
Because you have easily a top 10, top 15 defense. I was saying this the other night, just casually in bed. If the Titans can get somewhere between 15 and 20, or 15 and 20 ranked offense, and your defense is somewhere between 10 and 13, 10 and 14 ranked, you have a very good shot at make the playoffs.
And it's probable. I mean, you look at what the defense did last year, even without Harold Landry.
They were still right there on the cusp of winning this division.
If their secondary helps them out and helps force more turnovers, that's a difference maker.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this, go back to that Kansas City game. It was Malik's second start.
Right.
If Bud Dupree does not get hurt, Tennessee wins that game.
And I wouldn't argue that. I mean,
because if you go back, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back, look at before Bud Dupree went out. Look at how clicking that defense was up front. Patrick Mahomes could not scramble.
No.
The second Bud Dupree goes out, he starts being able to run. He starts picking up those yards. He's able to start rolling out and throwing downfield.
And, that's what it's going to take. I think the Tennessee defense is going to have to once again step up for an offense where there's a lot of question marks. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. Tim Kelly's got a very similar offense to what Arthur Smith ran. So,
and I love it.
Anyone trying to compare it to what Todd Downing was doing, I guarantee you it's not.
Go watch the video that Rossi put out about Tim Kelly is not Todd Downing.
He's not.
Because, and I think Rossi mentioned this, that we had gotten word from a source talking about this new offense.
And Kelly's going to try different things. I mean, he's got a quarterback that understands what to do.
Tim Kelly, if you have to look at his time in Houston, he's known for spreading defenses out.
That, and he's helped elevate a lot of quarterbacks' game. I mean, what he did with Deshaun Watson while the Texans still didn't have a lot of weapons, and even Davis Mills. Davis Mills was the second best rookie quarterback that year.
Exactly, and 100%. And I feel like if you give him a chance with Will Levis, oh, you're going to have a gem on your hands.
And I mean, that's a good point, Fox. I mean, I'm not going to pull the injury card right here because that's another story. That's another show for another day. We're just trying to keep it simple. We're trying to keep it vanilla, as we say. Keep it simple in this situation, because if we start putting injuries, or if this guy's hurt or that guy's hurt, it's just too complicated, even at this juncture.
And the question is, if Will Levis comes out and plays and just balls out, could he be the steal of the draft?
I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, from a rookie standpoint, I think it's really going to be evaluated depending on how long you play in the season. Let's say Will Levis comes out halfway through the year, and we'll say he does ball out, but
and he leads leads the Titans to the playoffs.
I'm not ready to go that far yet.
Will and Waddle, that would be a good combination.
I don't hate it. But fifth best game in.
Should we make the trade for Jalen Waddle?
Miami's not going to trade Jalen Waddle, but I do have a few. I do have a few ideas, and I'm not going to say them out loud. But this might definitely be. We'll definitely talk when we finish with the show tonight, Lee, because I've got a few ideas for next week's show. So
okay.
we'll get the little fans a little excited about some potential trades, but I don't want to give away too much. So just stay tuned.
But we know there's one name that's been rumored to Tennessee, just as a random pickup, not a trade. Would you go after it? Would you entertain that?
If you're talking about Jarvis Landry, I don't have a problem with that.
Because he has that continuity with Ryan. Him and Ryan played together in Miami.
I mean, if it's a 1-year deal, I don't think it's a bad deal.
I would say if I'm Rand and I look at what Jarvis Landry can do, I would say 1 year, maybe $5-6 million. Just basically, hey, I think you have something left in the tank. Prove it.
Yeah, like I said, we'll talk about that on another show another day. Right now, we got games we got to talk about. And, of course, the next game on the docket, of course, one of the most unpopular ones right now, it's definitely the London game between the Ravens. But I still think this could be a pivotal role to see how far the Titans are either progressing or how far they're going to have to start looking to rebuild. So, Lee, realistically, the Titans definitely lose a home game in this situation. But unfortunately, it's one they definitely have to win, especially in a neutral site.
And I know a lot of Titans fans are. I'm gonna abbreviate this. I know a lot of the Titans fans are PO'd about this. Mike, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. So fire away.
That the biggest rivalry game this season for the Titans, outside of the division, it has always been, we have to go back to the year 2000. The biggest rivalry game in Titans history has always been Baltimore. If you look at this, every time these two teams get together, you get basically a slug match. You get a knockdown, drag out, good old Southern fist fight, basically.
This is Smash Mouth football at its finest.
And this is the thing that I'm irritated about it too, okay? You have the biggest rivalry game for the Titans on foreign soil. And if you look at the history between these two teams, Titans, I think, were a top 3 seed in 2001 playoffs. Baltimore comes into Nashville and beats Tennessee. They make the run to the Super Bowl. 2008, Titans get a first round bye. Baltimore comes into Nashville and beats Tennessee. But then skip ahead to the 2019-2020 season. Baltimore's the number 1 seed. Lamar Jackson is the MVP of the league. Tennessee goes in there and knocks them off. These two teams have a lot of history.
I mean, in terms with the NFL doing this, I mean, I'm not shocked. I mean, I'm not a fan of the international series. I'm really not. I hate waking up in the middle of the morning to try and catch a game, especially if it's a good matchup. And, there's only really one good matchup, and it ends up in Wembley Stadium. So, to me, though, I mean, we can go that route. I mean, it's definitely a playoff matchup.
Or you could go to Germany, Kansas City, and Indianapolis. Or New England and Seattle.
I'd take New England and Seattle because I think they're more matched up. Kansas City with Indy right now, Indy's going to steamboat them. Well, Kansas City's going to steamboat them. rephrase that.
Steamroll.
But I definitely think this is a game you have to kind of set yourself up. It's a good test for the Titans. You know, it's a situation they're coming in. We're trying to figure out what they're going to need to do long term. And it's a good test. And I mean, with an offense that gets fully restructured around their long-term signee, Lamar Jackson, it's going to be good TV.
And can I make a point? So right after this game, Tennessee has a bye right after this game.
Right. Which that's traditional on any of the overseas games.
What is Mike Vrabel's record coming out of a bye week?
I know it's not undefeated, but it's really good.
Yeah, it is.
It's
in the regular
undefeated.
season. He's 5-0.
Okay, so he's definitely got an Andy Reid streak going.
He's 5-0 coming out of the bye week in the regular season. And thank you to Mike Keith for that little stat.
That's definitely a good stat to know. I mean, especially after that, that's an 11-game stretch the Titans are going to be looking down the barrel of. So knowing they're going to have to save a lot of their best football, especially kind of some of the weeks in and week out going forward.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, especially, I think number 3 is definitely one that fans are really going to be paying attention to.
I would, if you were going to have a Jacksonville game, I would have the season finale. Because I even mentioned this. And I mentioned this for week 18 in the video. We need to go back and take what's rightfully ours. Even if that means taking Trevor Lawrence out of a game.
Well, I chose this specific game for a reason. First off, it's going to be the first matchup with the Jaguars. So it's going to be on the road. And I genuinely think that's going to be the best test for the Titans right now. I don't know what the Jaguars are going to be this season. I know they've got questions on the offensive line. If you're not paying attention to what Trevor Lawrence's ceiling is going to be and what Calvin Ridley brings to the table, I don't think they're going to be a knockout team that, I don't think they're on level of what a Cincinnati or a Kansas City is, but they're still pretty good. I do, however, think this is a great test for the Titans on the road. They're facing a team that they got embarrassed with on the road. So you really want to see what they can do going forward with this new lineup that they have.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence, I remember sitting and watching him the year before he got drafted. Trevor Lawrence is something special. You can have all of the every little thing that you want a quarterback. But don't get me wrong, the kid's a good quarterback, but he's also intelligent.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is you have a young quarterback, and if I can compare him to anybody when it comes to the smarts that he has, you have to look at NFL Hall of Famer Peyton Manning.
I'm not willing to go that far, but with Doug Peterson, Lawrence's ceiling elevates. And I think that's what makes the Jaguars dangerous. I think Doug Peterson, with a quarterback of Trevor Lawrence's caliber, they can go as far as he can take them.
Doug Peterson is a true NFL head coach, okay?
I'm not debating that. I'm making the fact that his ceiling is elevated because of that. If Trevor Lawrence was with any other head coach, I don't think that. But Doug
Urban
Peterson
Meyer.
to me, Doug Peterson to me is that coach that can elevate a quarterback. He has that gift like Andy Reid did.
Like you could take his ceiling has went from here to here.
Exactly. So to me, Lawrence with Doug Peterson is a great marriage. That's matchups that head coaches dream of, having that type of elite talent.
In their first season together, you saw what they did. They won the AFC South, beat the Chargers. And I agree. Without the refs blowing the game versus the Titans, Jacksonville would not have been in the playoffs.
And that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, like I said, I think Jacksonville's good. I think they're playoff good. I think they could win to about 11 to 12 games. The thing that concerns me is, offensive tackle position. They had to address that in the draft. Will their rookie that they drafted step up and be able to protect him? I think Calvin Ridley's a great addition, but at the same time, I think they really need help also just trying to get the running game, because I don't think it's just – I think they need pieces to kind of help move and elevate things along. I think eventually they're going to continue to move in the right direction, but I think, the addition of a young offensive tackle, it kind of just makes me a little wishy-washy.
Yeah.
And did I miss something? Who is calling Trevor Carson Wentz like? Trevor Lawrence isn't Carson Wentz at all.
The reason he's saying that is because if you go back to when Peterson was in Philadelphia with Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz was Carson Wentz's own enemy. That's what that
Carson Wentz, before the injury happened, he was on his way to an NFL MVP.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. Just consider this a hot take now.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence wins NFL MVP this season.
You're just throwing out all the hot takes, Lee. I mean, geez, man, we got like 4 or 5 months. You got to spread some stuff out, man.
3-1 show.
I'm not going to say he wins MVP, but I will say he's definitely in my top 5.
If he doesn't win MVP, he's runner-up.
I can't go that high. I'll say he's top 5 right now. That's just too high for me. With the Patrick Mahomes and the way Jalen Hurts played late in the season.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen to some extent. And I mean, Joe Burrow could be better next year. I'm not willing to go that far yet. I do think Trevor Lawrence, I'd put him in the top 5 in those candidates. I'm not willing to go that far yet. But I do think this is a great test for the Titans on the road. If they can win this game somehow, I think that definitely shows the Jaguars are going to have their hands full, that the Titans aren't going to just lay down and dive this year. So regardless of whatever happens, I like the narrative. I like the storyline. It's a good setup for the season. Fox, you killing it, man. You killing it. I love it when the comments get like this. It's great. And of course, number 2, in my opinion, early in the season, this is going to be a big test for the Titans at home.
Week 2 at number 2.
It definitely was a game that left a lot of bad taste in some fans' mouth, especially mine. We all know why. But, of course, that's another story for another day. But I do think this right here, Justin Herbert is primed to have a big year. And I really think that the Chargers have the offense to do it.
And I'm not going to say this one. I want to, but I'm not going to. And it's about the LA Chargers. You said they're primed for a big year?
Offensively.
I say as an overall team.
Secondary, I'm a little concerned about.
Well, they still have Derwin James. They have what's his name, the linebacker.
Can Derwin James stay healthy for the whole season, though?
Yeah. They also have They have Khalil Mack.
Yeah, Khalil Mack's not. This isn't a Khalil Mack 5 years ago, though.
If it was,
my God, this team would be terrifying.
well, Khalil Mack is still a good player. Don't get me wrong, he is.
Bradley Newberry, their head coach. I'm not even going to dispute that. That's a category in its own, Brad.
I'm going to say this. Brandon Staley, his seat is getting a little warm right about now.
His seat's hot. After that game with the Jaguars, his seat is hot.
I say if the Chargers come in and lose, let's say 6 of their first 8, Staley's out the door.
That's a long lead.
If they go to, actually, let's back it up. Let's say they lose. Let's say they start 2-4, and you're sitting in the basement of the AFC West. If you start 2-4 and you're in the basement, there's no way you're digging yourself out.
I mean, it's realistic. If
with the Raiders in that division, you have Kansas City you have to deal with. You have Denver with a legitimate head coach and Sean Payton.
Yeah, if Denver and the Raiders are above you, that's a problem. But offensively, I think, this is the year that Justin Herbert's going to basically elevate his game. So my apologies for that. Justin Herbert's going to elevate his game. I love the fact that they went out and drafted Quentin Johnson. I think he's going to be a great fit for their offense. They need that guy that's going to be able to get those jump balls. I don't care if he catches it to his body. The dude's a producer. And that's exactly the kind of player Herbert needs to elevate his game.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen was a good addition, but I just never felt that he was the right fit receiver for what Justin Herbert likes to do. Quentin Johnson, on the other hand, I do like, and I think that's going to help elevate him. I think he might have found his number one.
Well, you could also throw in the name Josh Palmer.
And I think Josh Palmer will definitely have another good year. I think he'll definitely elevate his game. So, to me, I just think it's one of these games. It left a really bad taste in Titans fans' mouths. They want to try and move on from this. And like I said, this defense that the Chargers have, it's not what they had last year. But it's still good enough.
In my mind, it's still good enough to if they compete, this team is still good enough to make the playoffs. But this team is also bad enough to end up in the basement.
With the coaching, I'll agree with that.
They have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the coaching down pat, you're in trouble.
And I will not argue with that. Brandon Staley is definitely on a very hot seat.
And I'm going to say this. I think Vrabel's seat is a little warm.
Well, like I said, another show, another day. We got 5 months. We can't be shooting a whole wad on the whole show.
All right, let's hit to number one.
Well, of course, before we get to number one, Lee, talked about a lot of great matchups. Who do you think's number one? I'm pretty sure you know who number one is, but who would you have initially thought?
I'm still going to say Cincinnati.
And I'm not going to argue with you.
Because the reason why Joey B and the Bengals have had our number the last 3 games that we've played them in.
Yeah.
We had a shot. We had a shot to knock them out of the playoffs and go to the AFC Championship.
At home.
But then you have Mr. Interception over there, Ryan Tannehill, throw an interception. Joe Burrow hits Jamar Chase, and the rest is history.
And Lou, man, I think Pittsburgh still has a lot of things they have to do. I think their defense is good, but I'm not buying Kenny Pickett.
This Titans defense will eat Kenny Pickett alive.
I mean, to me, the Pittsburgh Tennessee game, it's more of a defensive slobber knocker. I'd put it maybe at 6, just because of that one instance that it's going to be a good defensive game if you like defense. But
Yeah.
offensively, I just don't see a lot happening there. But I agree with you, Lee. I mean, Joe Burrow has become a problem for the Tennessee Titans. For the defense that they run, he's figured it out.
And I'm gonna mention this. So, of course, let's go back to the video. Rossi had Cincinnati, and he said, and basically Rossi said, "Is this the time that we get to take care of Burrow and the boys?" I think it is. We have probably the best pass rush that we've had in a good year and a half, 2 years. We get Harold Landry back. We sign Arden Key. We sign Sean Murphy Bunting at corner. I would say put Murphy Bunting on Jamar Chase.
But here's the thing for me. And this is really the Bengals last year, it just being that super competitive team. Because Tyler Boyd is a free agent next year.
Yeah.
T. Higgins is a free agent next year.
Ooh.
Pretty sure both their tight ends are free agents next year. They're going to have to sign Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to some huge deals. So they're not going to be able to keep a lot of guys.
We need to go out and either get Boyd or Higgins or both if we can.
Another show, another day. But my point is, Cincinnati's gunning for trying to get to the Super Bowl with the talent that they have. Even if they win, they're not going to be able to keep everybody. And yep, they do have a good running back, which they could have another good running back if Ezekiel Elliott wants to move on from there.
Well, where is Zeke at? Is he still on the market?
He's still on the market. He's taking his time, which is fine. Yeah. The Titans right now, we don't know what they're going to have on secondary. I'm not going to say that it's going to be as bad as last year because realistically, I don't know what Roger McCreary's going to do. I don't know if Caleb Farley's going to make an impact. I mean, Bunting was a good signing, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. My biggest question, however, is Chris Harris has had success with the Washington Commanders at the secondary coach. So I do think it was a solid hire. So you're going to have to expect that the secondary is going to have to compete at that level under him.
And there was something I saw because the Titans signed 2 corners out of minicamp.
And while you're looking that up, I have to add this to the narrative. Orlando Brown Jr. is with the Bengals now. So their offensive line's now even more shored up than it was last year. So they're going in all this year. The Bengals are going to make a push, and they're gunning for Kansas City right now.
The Titans have signed Northern Arizona corner L.J. Davis after a successful minicamp tryout. And the other one was Armani Marsh, DB from Washington State.
I mean, we'll see how that goes in training camp. I mean,
and
you got to give them credit. They find guys that can produce. It's just you hope you can find a guy that's going to be a difference maker. And there's a difference. There's a huge difference between the two.
So the Titans have signed 6 guys who earned contracts in minicamp. Kyrus Jackson.
Which I love that signing.
Gavin Holmes out of Baylor. I looked at him. He's a nice kid going over the middle.
He's got a potential to make the practice squad. I think he's still raw. But I like it. I think he's got potential.
Offensive line, James Impey. Don't know where he's from. L.J. Davis, the corner from North Arizona. Corner Eric Guerrer, I think. And then safety Armani Marsh. And this is all per Jim Wyatt.
So, I mean, interesting names there. I mean, Kyrus Jackson, you know how I feel about him. I feel like he's got a great chance at potentially sneaking onto this roster. And Al, realistically, I think from what I've been looking at, you know, Trey Wolf from Texas Tech might have a great shot at being the kicker this year.
Him or who's the other kid? Shudak?
Yeah, Shudak from Iowa, which got hurt last year, but Trey Wolf, I think he's only missed, I think, about 10 kicks in a 5-year career.
Yeah.
And he only missed 2 extra points, which he made, I think, over 100.
Which is huge.
That's in terms of like trying to compare it to what to do in the NFL, and a lot of the kicks that he has made were pretty big game winning kicks. And he's had some 50-yarders. So that's what you're trying to find. And I mean, you just go back to that game with the Giants last year. They make that kick. It's a whole different narrative. So kicker needs to be a situation that I think they need to go young and they need to address this year.
Yep. 100%.
So realistically, that's my take on who I think is going to have the best games out of the 5 this year. I mean, realistically, any of the games on the schedule on any given Sunday, we'll just see what happens. I mean, realistically, there are going to be a lot of competitive games. Weather takes factor, injuries takes factor. There's so many things we could get into. But I do think if you look at the situation right there, those are the best 5. And I mean, if the Titans find them in a situation getting into week 18 and there's a playoff berth at risk, it's not like they haven't got flexed before.
Sunday night.
I mean, that's very much a possibility. They always leave week 18 on Sunday night open.
Well, I wish I'd had this pulled up. It was something, there's new flexions for this year. And I think it's from week 8 to week 13. They can flex Monday nights.
I think you're right. They're going to start doing that this year. So, potentially any game that just loses its appeal after that time, a lot can happen in 8 weeks. So it's kind of nice having that narrative to where we can actually switch games and have that on a prime time level.
And then Sunday afternoons get flexed from noon Central to like 3:05, 3:25.
I definitely like that narrative better.
And then you can get games on Sunday night flexed back to earlier in the day, then games flexed to Sunday night.
Like I said, I would rather see better matchups later in the evening.
And I think that's why I think that's why they're going at it that way.
That's the way they need to do it. I mean, I'd rather watch the better games in the afternoon where everything's a little bit more chill. So I hope that's a narrative that they can continue and it's successful this year. So,
and the Titans have a crap ton of noon games.
Yeah. But, I mean, not as many as like what the Detroit Lions have or the Houston Texans have.
Because they're all noon games.
They're all noon, and they don't even have anything. They have no primetime games.
Which stinks.
And of course, yeah, Lou Man had to bring up, of course, the NFL's decision to put a wild card game on Peacock. And, I mean, I've got Peacock, but a lot of people don't.
Oh, the Great Reverend is traveling through my area next week.
Well, you definitely might have some lunch together if that's the possibility. But
Yeah,
while you two think about that, let's go ahead and take a quick 30-second break. And when we come back, we're going to close up shop, guys. We love you, but we got to send you back out in the world. But, of course, Lee and Al are probably going to have dinner plans together, so we'll let them talk that out in those 30 seconds. So you think about that. Get yourself a snack. I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. We'll be back in 30.
You're watching the Power Hour with your hosts, Michael Bishop and Lee Hillis.
The Power Hour is on the air, live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I'm your host, Michael Bishop, and thank you for joining us on this Monday evening. Joining me, of course, my good friend Lee from the 615 Podcast. Always giving a great insight on the show and great having him on as well. And, of course, you guys were killing it tonight on the comments. We love having you on here. Fantastic job by all of you. So, once again, give yourself a round of applause for putting in all this great work and great thoughts. And of course, before we get out of here, and I didn't have time to add this to the itinerary, so that's on me, and it just happens. I kind of get the show set up as early as I can just to get ourselves just prepared and everything. So, Lee, you had a great video drop tonight, and I want to make sure that you give a shout out to everybody and let them know what's going on the Titan Upload Network channel.
Yeah, so I dropped this. We had a Titans 2023 schedule release featuring Titans fans, and that dropped at about 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, which we had Morocco Taylor. We had, of course, our counterpart right here, Michael Bishop. We had Titans Rossi, Titans for Life. Myself, we had Carrie Romero, a.k.a. Zap Girl. We had Spider Titan and Blueface and we also had Greg Kett, a Titans fan from the UK, all involved with this. So that, if you get the chance to go over to the network and check that video out, basically if you need Titans content, you can find it there 24/7 over on the network.
As we say, business is a booming. We're going to keep you took care of as the offseason rolls along, right up to where training camp starts, along with preseason and getting you to kick off 2023. So make sure you check out Lee's schedule. Fantastic work. I see he got a lot of work put in on that.
In 2 days.
in 2 days. So believe me, there's a lot going on. Well, Fox, I promise you, we weren't going nowhere. You could have got a snack.
Nobody's getting a snack.
You should have got a snack. If I could have got a snack, I would have. I have to look professional. That's why I don't.
I have Kit Kats sitting across the room.
Well, that's you. I got Dunkaroos, but I can't lean over because I'll flip out of my chair. So, and I don't want to look like the fat kid reaching for Dunkaroos. So that's on me. But guys, as always, fantastic job on your part, giving us great comments and insight. But of course, we got to let you go. But before we go, we got one great segment, and we love doing it with you before we leave.
Closing time.
Good night, losers.
And of course, the biggest story in Titans on the Titans web right now. Give a shout out to the Titans PR people. They definitely brought their A game as they went out on Broadway and asked just regular people out on the street who the Tennessee Titans would be playing in their upcoming schedule. And the answers did not disappoint. So, Lee, I got to ask you, out of that entire video, which response was your favorite? And everybody in the comments, please let us know what yours was.
I'm going to come proud and say it. The Red Stallions.
You got to finish that. It was the Red Stallions, RAR. For some reason, RAR has to be in there.
And then I'm going to agree with Time Fox on this also. The Colts logo, the Cowboys.
Of course, the Boston Bobcats were one. One of them was what? The 69ers and the 96ers. And I'm still trying to figure that one out. But I mean, you could have asked for a better punch in the stomach to the Jaguars, to the one that just actually does not exist. I'm like, oh man, That person's definitely not a football fan, but that definitely had to hurt.
The Texans.
Yes, the Texans. Which was crazy. The Cowboys. Yes, thank you, Fox. Is the 49er 96er stars, which was the Steelers logo. So, and of course, they went after everybody on Broadway that looked like they had a good time. And you all know what I mean. Those people definitely had a few in their system.
That's what I was going to say. Like, they looked like they had a little bit of liquor in their system.
And I mean, Brad, I
Oh.
I mean, I gave them their dues, and I don't know what happened, but I'm just saying. The fans said they did not actually exist. So, it's not a knock on the champs. I'm just relaying what the fans said, or whatever the person said that had too much libation. So, needless to say, applause to the Titans PR department, especially getting all that social media work.
And
it was definitely good, and it got laughs.
And of course, a huge shout out to Nate Bain for putting that whole thing together.
Okay, and Brad's talking about the fans. I don't even know if those were fans. I mean, let's be honest. Most people that live in Nashville, they don't go to Broadway unless there's something really cool going on. Those are just tourists.
Most people that go to Broadway, as you said, most people don't go to Broadway unless there's something cool happening. In my mind, most people don't go to Broadway because they could care less.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you want to go for it. I mean, it's a young kid's game. And I've done the bar scene. It's not my scene anymore.
It's not my scene anymore.
It's not. Let's be honest. It's young kids going out and getting trashed, and then you got like two people that like in a fist fight like right by you while you're trying to walk by with just two drinks that you paid $40 for. So I'm good.
And there was a video, of course. It was from Caitlin Miller, and it was a security guard, not one, not two, but three, in a fist fight with patrons, and on the street.
Shocking.
And now they're being questioned about the whole thing.
Well, that's what I said. I'm not.
They knew who the guys were.
I'm not in the bar scene anymore. I don't do that. It's too noisy for me. Fox tailgate parties are fine. They're small and they're intimate gatherings, and there's not a lot of people there. I'm fine with that.
There's food. And there's food.
Exactly. I don't have a problem with tailgates. Tailgates are fine. A busy street, one of the busy streets in Nashville, it's not my scene. It's too many people. It's just too much going on.
I'm guessing
it's too crowded.
I'm guessing you did not go to the draft in 2019, did you?
I wanted to. I just did not have the opportunity to because I didn't have the money.
And it's something you would want to do if you had the chance to.
Well, I mean, I've been in big events and I've been to big arenas and I've been around a lot of people. The thing is, it's just I don't want to go in a bar. I've done the bar scene. It's crowded. It's just annoying. It's loud.
It's loud.
It's more loud. It's more loud than it needs to be.
And of course, you smell liquor all over the place.
I don't want to look at somebody and yell at them to have a conversation.
Like, hey, you!
And I mean, yeah, in my perspective, I can deal with that in a stadium setting because you're more in just an open area. You're spread out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But in a bar, it's a smaller enclosed area. I worked for Budweiser. So believe me, I understand what it's like being in a bar area completely. So it's a tiring scene. If you're a young 21 or 22-year-old, I get it. You have your time. Enjoy yourself young.
But if you're 35 to 40.
Yeah, I'm pushing 38 and I'm pushing 38. I got 3 kids. I'm more comfortable having a drink at home. So that's just me.
I'm pushing 30.
You still a baby.
I'll be 29 this year, so I'm closer to 30 than I am 22.
You start okay, you start waking up and thinking Colonial Penn Insurance is a good idea, then you can come talk to me.
Colonial Pinch.
You go to the bathroom and sneeze and throw your back out, then you can come talk to me about old age. But shout out to the Titans for getting that out and getting a good PR in place. And of course, Nate, great job as always. We hope to get him on the show one day. We're going to continue to push for that. But of course, finishing off the show.
AAR Power.
All right, Fox, I love that. And I might reach out to them because they definitely have good benefits. And if I can get that on the show and that's a perk, I'll do it.
We need to be working on some sponsorships for the season.
We're trying. We're trying. I can tell you I've got some lures in the water. We'll see what happens. But of course, Lee, I'll let you finish that out on your thoughts of the night, on your final thoughts of the night.
But of course, the schedule is interesting. We know how everything's laid out. We know where everything's laid out. But the question is, how do we attack it? I know we attack it one game at a time.
I mean, in general, you always don't want to sound like just a cliche, but that's just the best you can do. You're just going to go in just with that mentality of going in one game at a time, just let the narrative play itself out. And that's just the best way to do it. If you're looking ahead, then you're only setting yourself up for failure. And I mean, Brad Newman says you run the damn ball. I'm not against that at all. I mean, as long as you're going to have Derrick Henry and he has the viability and the athletic ability to continue to play, you use the man. And Tajay Spears, I'm interested to see what he can do as well.
I would do this. If I had Tim Kelly or Mike Vrabel on the phone, like their number, I would call them and say, run the ball. Like from The Blind Side.
What, the movie The Blind Side?
Yes. And that's outside of draft day, that's one of the best movies to watch.
I mean, that's debatable, but I guess that's another show for another day. I mean, we'll throw that up on the pile for potential ideas, maybe 5 best football movies of all time. But realistically, I mean, before we go, I'll definitely share in a power thought of my own, because I've definitely been going through a few things and I just wanted to talk with the audience and just kind of give you an idea what's going on in my life. I plan on changing jobs very soon, and I've worked for FedEx for about 4 years, and I enjoy the work, but it's not what I want to do forever. Eventually, I'd like to get to the point where I'm doing this as my career. Yeah, this is what I want to do full time. But, I've had another opportunity arise. There's a lot of better advantages and better ideas, and I get a lot more say going forward, and I'm excited about that. But also, I'm appreciative of the time that I've had at my other career, and I appreciate the people that have, really just looked out for me and given me the advantage to help grow their company. And, there's no bad blood there. I hope that they continue to thrive, and I hope it's successful for them, and whoever decides to take whatever I'm working at, that it works out for them. So my advice to anybody out there on the show tonight is, don't be afraid to take chances. I'm 38 and I'm starting over with a new job coming up really soon, and we'll just see where it goes. At the end of the day, I want to be successful at whatever I'm doing. I hope in the end that I could potentially get to do this for a living. That's what I'm going to continue to strive for. It's my dream. I love doing this show. I love having Lee on the show and doing the show with him. I hope that's the end game. So at the end of the day, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about the future of the show. And whatever happens, I embrace change. And I encourage you as well. Don't be afraid of change. Go out there and chase your dreams.
And I know we're all excited about the future of not only this show, but the whole network.
Agreed. I mean, we've got a lot of things coming up that we really we're kind of sitting on right now that we can't say anything about, but I promise
Sit on
you,
goose eggs.
yeah, we're sitting on goose eggs till they hatch, but I promise you, there's some pretty big things coming up. So make sure you continue to pay attention to what's going on with the Titan Upload Network. And of course, don't forget, guys, as you all know, we are members of the Titan Upload Network, and the best thing you can do for us to grow is to follow us on all our social media platforms. So remember, don't forget to follow all your Titans favorites, whether it be Titans Rossi, Titans Upload, the Jump Pass Podcast, Titans for Life, the 615 Podcast, Draft Brian, or the Power Hour. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications on our YouTube page. Don't forget, for all you OGs, we're looking out for you on Facebook, so make sure you follow us there as well. We keep putting the same content on there as we do on our YouTube page because we're looking out for you guys. That's important for us. We want to make sure that we're getting our information and all our content out to you. That's what we continue to strive to do for our best. And as always, guys, if you love the show, help it grow. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch at the Power Hour 615. We're going to continue to put out that free content, that great free content, I'll mind you, because we love you and we want to continue to get you to keep coming and make sure that you share the show out to all your friends, or if they're just NFL friends in general, because we serve to all kinds and we'll talk football regardless, whether it be Tennessee Titans or just any NFL football news in general. Because here at the Power Hour, we definitely are here.
Aim to please.
Aims to please. So thank you. That's why I got Lee here. He helps me with that. And Lee, of course, got to let you give a shout out and let the fans know what's going to be going on maybe in the next couple of weeks, especially with the 615.
Well, it's been pretty quiet on my end. Like, seriously, it has. There's really nothing in the works right now, but you never know. Just, of course, keep an eye out on social media at on Instagram at _615 podcast, Twitter at podcast 615, and those are basically the two places. If you need to reach me, you can.
Lee's definitely going to get it out for you regardless, but of course he works hard on this show as well, and we appreciate you as always, Lee. You are the wind beneath my wings. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching the show tonight. We'll be back next Monday with another great show for you. We'll probably be back on this channel. Not sure yet. We'll figure it out as we go. But you all have a great night tonight. And of course, as always, I'm Michael Bishop of the Power Hour. And as always, take care and tighten up.
Thank you for watching this live presentation of the Titan Upload Network.